Welcome to the Two Grumpy Bastards podcast, where feelings aren't felt and snowflakes melt. Buckle up, it's gonna be a bumpy ride.
They painted over ants.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the Two Grumpy Bastards podcast. It's been a bit. Russ and I tried to lay down a podcast last week, and we had some audio problems on the podcast. Audio problems to the point where it was unlistenable. I sounded like a Cylon, and I don't mean like the 2005 version. I mean the 1984 version of the
1978, and they were cool.
78, excuse me, version of the Cylons. There was something going on, so we had to trash that. So we're back. I hope you folks had a chance to listen to my interesting interview with one of Russ and myself's favorite soldiers we've ever served with, Command Sergeant Major Eric, who had some nice insights about not just Afghanistan, but the woke military and a lot of other things. Really hope you had a chance. I'm going to take my glasses off. Because I don't want people to have the wrong idea. You know,
what's the wrong idea? That maybe you have an intellect and that you could be
the wrong idea that the wrong idea that I'm actually flawed.
Okay, I'd like to take a look at your forehead and know that.
That's a beautiful forehead. That is a Viking, Russian, German forehead, is what that is, baby. Earned every inch of it. I don't have a forehead. I have a 7 head.
The high and tight kind of hides it a little bit here. Now that I'm going back to the high and tight.
Well, have you noticed I'm growing my hair out again? You notice? Got some good looking hair here. I have decided that I'm no longer cutting my own hair. I've been doing it since March of 2020, I believe, when they shut everything down for COVID. And just became a habit. And I'm like, yeah, I'm going to grow it out. I'm going to go game show host for a while and see what works. And then I'm actually going to go to an actual place where I pay money for somebody to do it for me.
So are you going to the Drew Carey school or the Steve Harvey school? The haircut.
Yeah, neither or, my friend. Neither or. No, I know this forehead that you've made fun of for all these years has been consistent throughout my life. So it's not like I'm losing my hair at my age. You know, like I like to say, I have all of my hair, most of my brain, and some of my looks. So life is fucking good, baby. How you doing, Russ? Before we get kicked off.
I'm doing good. I got just sore from age, and I passed the half-century mark a few weeks back. So I'm now officially grandpa age.
Yeah, aren't we all? Aren't we all?
Although if I become a grandpa anytime in the next few years, whoever the boy is that got my daughter pregnant is going to he's going to learn what the word castration means.
Yeah, well, you waited a while in life to have your kids.
Yeah, my kids are still, one's not even a teenager and one is just a teenager.
Yep. So I think that's cool. I think that there's probably something as a parent your age. I remember, of course, when you had your daughters. I was serving with you when you had the first one. And
when she showed up 2.5 months early. Yeah.
Yeah, I remember all the difficulties you went through with that, and God bless the medical facilities, and you and your lovely wife were able to give her such great medical care and all that. But yeah, I was in, so you're just a little bit behind me in age. I was in my mid-30s back then. So yeah, you didn't have your kids until your early 30s, right?
Yeah, I had one in my early 30s, and I had one when I was 39. So it really occurred. This is where the geek in me came out. I started doing some thinking, which you should never do. It occurred to me that when my youngest graduates from college, I'm going to be 60. And then I really started thinking, and I started thinking, it's not unusual for folks to live to be 87 years old, right? A lot of people live to the age of 87.
Absolutely.
Well, when my youngest turns 87, it's going to be the year 2100. And to me, that's the future. So that makes an impact, and starting to wonder, I doubt I'll ever see my own great-grandchildren. I hope I can live to see my grandchildren at some point.
Well, you gotta quit eating pizza with every meal and maybe eat a vegetable in order to
Hey,
achieve.
I don't know if you've seen my Facebook page, but I hit a mark last week that I haven't hit in several years. I went to the second notch on the belt. So it's coming off.
Oh, you mean down notch
Yes.
or up? Okay, okay.
To where it takes more belt now to keep my pants up.
That's a good place to be. And listen, I'm not making fun of you. You know that I had a couple of major injuries and some other issues going on. And then when you can't move, it's not like you can go out and get organic farm, market shit. So I've been eating like shit for months. I have been, which is changing now. And I'm back in the gym. So we'll reverse this process because the nice thing about a metabolism like mine is yes, the fat comes on quickly, but the muscle comes on even quicker, which is great. I've always had good luck with that. So looking forward to that. And then I also bought one of those home gym things, one of those market things.
Like the Chuck Norris one?
No, it's the boxing one.
Okay.
So yeah, it's like Peloton or the rowing machine where you get the videos and you do the boxing workout because I boxed for many years and martial arts and all that hua stuff. So I'm looking forward to do that. I got a nice big space in the garage to put it in, and I'll do videos and send them to you, Russ, of me sweating it out.
Yeah, I'll use those at night to masturbate too.
You know what's really strange is last night I was flipping around. I was taking a break from doing my job, and I was flipping around and I saw the movie Big George Foreman. I thought it was a documentary, and I'm a big fan of George Foreman and his boxing career and everything he stood for in his life as a man and a Christian and all that other thing. So I watched it. It was a movie. That was very inspirational, actually. That was good timing because I'm like, oh, he got fat as fuck. And then he came back and won the heavyweight title. So I'll be fine.
So you're gonna go back and win the heavyweight title too?
He was damn near my age when he did it. So, but yeah, I don't think so. I don't think I want to like get in the ring with the Fury brothers or anything like that right now. That might be kind of silly, especially with all the concussions and everything that I've had in my life. So
I'm drawing a blank for some Logan Paul. You can get in the ring with Logan Paul.
oh, I'd love to punch that little bitch in the face, but I will say this: the guy's actually talented. I mean,
Yeah, well, he's actually putting in some work.
I know boxing. I do. Started when I was very young, 8 years old. Had a great coach. No boxing, love boxing, and he's actually good. I got to give him credit, and I can say I'd like to punch that little bitch in the face, but not only is he taking this seriously and he's put the work in, he's a fantastic entrepreneur. I got to give him credit for that. So, that's the American dream, right?
Yeah, I think I saw on TV somebody put it right. I I don't have a problem punching someone in the face. I really don't want them to try to punch me back though.
Yeah, it's part of it. You have to kind of enjoy that part of it too. Just gotta makes you a little, I don't know, makes you more focused. At this stage in my life, the last time somebody punched me in the face wasn't actually that long ago. I won't get into it.
Hey,
But I kind of liked it. I was like, cool. And and it just flips that switch. It just flips that switch. It's really hard. It's really hard to hurt me if you punch me in the face for some reason. I don't know. Um, I famously ended up with 9 fractures to my jaw and skull after a run-in with a Angus bull, and I still got up and was yelling at the bull to come on back, you motherfucker. Come get some.
you know they don't speak English, right?
Unfortunately, they don't, and that's just me being ridiculously stupid, not even being a tough guy. But I floated around for 3 weeks with all those going on until I finally checked myself into the VA, and they're like, we probably should wire your jaw shut and put a steel plate in your face. And I'm like, don't do that. Well, you could get this thing called shovel face, and that actually exists, where your bone can cave in. This is no shit, Russ. I used to be able to touch this tooth right here, press on it, and right above my eyebrow, the bone would come out a little bit because I had this horrible fracture all the way up. It was a weird feeling, and let me tell you. And then my palate was paralyzed. Like I couldn't feel anything in my palate. And then for about a year after that, I felt like electrical shots in my palate every time I'd speak, every time I drink, all that kind of thing. It was brutal. But I weathered the storm, and
Can I guess that on the original incident there was alcohol involved?
no, not at all. I mean,
I don't know
no,
whether to feel better about that or not.
no. I mean, there have been many times in my life where alcohol was involved, as we well know, but no, no, I didn't go out and punch an Angus bull in the face. That's not what happened. I just kind of was helping out, and the bull decided I was big and wearing a black coat, and I think he thought I was another bull, and he decided to come run me over, got me with his horns about 9 times, and yeah, it was I should send you the photo sometime. When I was and I went to an emergency room locally, and not far from where I am right now, and they took X-rays and then sent me home with like 3 days worth of Percocet. That was it. That was their entire intervention.
That sounds like the Army in general. Here's some Motrin. Go back out to the field.
Yeah, no, well, this is terrible hospital. It has a really bad reputation around here. And when I checked myself into the VA, they were like, "You've been walking around like this? Oh my God. Did they not do an MRI? Did they not do, all this other stuff?" And I'm like, absolutely.
Well, it's sad when the VA is giving you better care than the local hospital.
Yeah, you say that, but every time I've been in an actual VA setting, I've gotten excellent care. I have.
It varies wildly from location to location.
I guess it does. I've heard that. Up here in the Pacific Northwest, Seattle and American Lake, I mean, they're center of excellence for like drug and alcohol, PTSD. They built a brand new hospital in Seattle. I did have to wait 7 hours to try to get an MRI for my lower back one time up there, and I absolutely pitched a fucking fit, went shit crazy. And of course, for those of you that don't know this, the biggest waste of money in the world is that the VA has their own police force, and it's an actual police force. This is something that I have written congressmen about. I'm like, what the fuck? Like American Lake, Washington, and Spanaway is one of the most peaceful, cool, laid back places. It's beautiful. It's right on this beautiful lake. It's adjacent to North Fort Lewis. Gorgeous. And there's like 6 full-time cops that work there, and all they do is drive circles. And if you're going for a walk, if you're there, they'll like look at you and follow you. And it's like, it's insane. Yes, the VA has an actual police force, for those of you that don't know. And so when I was throwing a fit at the MRI place, the police force actually walked up to me, and I'm like, everybody here that's looking at me is going to lose their fucking jobs today. Everybody. And the police were like, okay. I'm like, I'm just pissed off. I'm not being violent. I'm really pissed off. I've been sitting here for 7 hours trying to get an MRI. I need you to reschedule. I'm going home, and I need you to make sure I'm the first up when I get here. Now, the poor, clerk that came up, they didn't even have a receptionist at the MRI clinic, by the way. You signed in on a clipboard and sat there.
Wow.
It was insane. So that was the one horrible experience I had at the VA. Horrible experience.
Oh, maybe the quality of the actual care is okay, but that experience is more indicative of it's maybe a customer service kind of thing when it comes to calling, appointments, wait times. I get the feeling that most of the folks they're used to dealing with are in a lot different condition.
I think
maybe
so,
not
too.
not quite as all there. Maybe that's why they are the way they are.
I've navigated the VA system for a long, long time, and I know the ins and outs, and I probably should have my own YouTube channel instead of these bitches like Combat Craig, and help people out. Yeah, I said that. Anytime, anywhere, any parking lot in America, bro. And but I know how to navigate the system. And what makes me so mad about those experiences, Russ, it's not the care providers that are bad, it's the administration behind it that's bad. And what makes me really upset is I'm well educated. I have my capabilities are mostly here, and I can't imagine what it would be like for some of these vets that don't have those functions, or don't have those, what I'm saying? That's what makes me really upset about it. Mental health wise, the providers that I've gone to in the VA, fantastic across the board. It's getting to see a provider that can be a problem.
Yeah, that's been the biggest gripe that I've seen. Like I said, I get a private doctor. I don't usually get my care through the VA, even though I can. Most of my dealings have been the amount of time it takes for them to make certain determinations, certain decisions. It just takes a long time. That's kind of frustrating. But
I get it. I was as you know, and I've talked about it on the podcast, and I'm open about it because I think the stigma must be removed. But I was in a program in April and May at the American Lake, a resident program, and I came out in May, and September 7th was going to be my follow-up with my mental health care provider that I'm newly assigned to. September 7th. I'm not shitting you. And I take medications, I do everything I can to better myself. And that really, and I told the providers there at American Lake at the time, I said, I went through this last year with you folks that I couldn't get in to see anybody. And I'm 100% and I'm on top of the list and all that stuff. And I begged and begged and begged. And that's like, let me see somebody in the community, give me a referral. They would give me a name, they would give me a clinic, call this person, call that person. These people either didn't exist, didn't work there, or didn't take Tri-West. The VA,
why are they in the VA then?
I went through that for 6 months trying to fix that situation. So yeah, I lost my shit last summer largely because of that. I really did. And that's not to not take responsibility. That's just to say that I think the outcome would have been a lot different had I been able to, in a timely manner, get somebody in the community. And look, you go to somebody at the level of care that I need and try to pay out of pocket, you're talking
thousands.
Oh my God. It's like $230 an hour.
Yeah. For
somebody, in that. Now I can go to a community clinic and all that like everybody else, but that I've been in the system for a while. I know how to navigate the system. That's just fucked off. And I was having this conversation with a group of folks yesterday about the status of mental health in this country. This is not what we were supposed to talk about in this podcast, but I made the point that psychology has been an endeavor. You could say modern psychology, Freud, late 19th century. I think another point I would make is that the Greeks had it all figured out thousands of years ago, and we haven't. It's because we haven't progressed past that.
In order to be a good psychologist, you really need to be basically a philosopher. A study of human behavior. Because if I have a broken arm and I go into the hospital, it's really easy for them to see, all right, you have a broken arm. Let me set it so you can use your arm again.
Right.
But if you're talking about somebody's inner wirings in their head. When you go say, hey, I've got some mental health issues, I need you to fix me. Well, you need to know, all right, what does being a human on the right path mean? Because there's no, we don't necessarily have the same understandings of mental health that we do of, say, an angiogram, a stent or something. We don't have those kinds of understandings. So it's very, very prone to being skewed by individual philosophical outlook. So when the Greeks were very proficient in that, it makes sense.
It does, and what's scary is that we are actually in worse shape mental health wise than we've ever been. Yet we've had this thing called psychology going on for well over 100 years now, but and they've gone away from that deep psychoanalysis to what they call like client-centered therapy and motivational interviewing and soft approaches to therapy. That's kind of the vogue now. You wouldn't want to sit there and go, well, tell me about your mother. That there are psychoanalysis practices out there still, but it's become, it was shunned a lot, like in the 60s and 70s, kind of fell out of vogue. And now we're at a place where suicides, and I'm talking Western world here, are at an all-time high, and it's exponentially higher in the United States than any other country other than Russia. depression, and I mean clinical depression. Anybody thinks this stuff doesn't exist are out of their fucking minds. Of course it does. Depression is rampant. You would think after all this practice, after all this stuff, wouldn't it be nice if we had incremental advances in mental health practice that we do in medical practice? But we don't. America, for instance, cancer rates or cancer survival rates in America are much, much higher than anywhere else in the world. It's not even close. But yet our depression and suicide rates are much, much higher than anywhere else in the world. It's kind of scary if you think about it, Russ.
Well, I think going back to the point on philosophy and stuff, I think because a lot of our mental health is tied to broader society as a whole, and when we come unmoored from some of the societal foundations, an actual purpose in life, ties to community, whether that be through religion, whether that be through family, whether it be through extended family, when we lose those things that we have evolved to have as part of our lives. I mean, when we were hunting, gazelles on the African Serengeti, you had a purpose. I have to go out and provide food for my family. We have to be able to, build this community. Even in medieval times, it was, I have a church, I have a community, I have a faith. And now it's like technology and certain societal evolutions have freed us from that. And we thought that was going to be a good thing. And it turns out maybe that unmooring has led to this, because the brain is still searching. Our minds are still searching for those connections. They're still searching for that meaning. And when you lose that kind of stuff, I mean, look at, for example, back to our background, so many veterans, when they get out, they tend to, hey, I was in service for 20, 25, 30 years. I knew what I was supposed to be doing. And suddenly they get out and they're like, okay, now I guess I'm supposed to go work on spreadsheets and, how do I adapt to this? So it's going to be hard to address the broader mental health questions until you address the underlying societal issues. And people don't want to do that because it comes back to, oh, now you're trying to, oppress me.
Yeah, you made you made every point that was in my head. Well, not every, but excuse me, a little more water here. Excuse me. No, you made some amazing points. We've talked about this before, but I think it's a point that can't get talked about enough. You talked about everybody having a role and a purpose. And have you read the book that I've recommended a million times, Tribe by Stephen Younger yet?
I don't remember you recommending it, but
I did. It was a long time ago. No worries.
Okay. Yeah. Well, my memory is not what it once was. It should be. But it's
you would be able to get through it in a few hours. It's very well done. And okay. Stephen Younger's work. He did some embed reporting work over in Iraq and Afghanistan and stuff like that. And he wrote it. He started writing a book about PTSD, and then it ended up being kind of like a cultural sociological study. And he talks about that too, about how in a unit in the military, everybody has a role. It's defined, it's important. If one of those people doesn't do their jobs, the entire unit can fail. And that's much like how we were, and we've talked about the Savannah brain a bunch of times, when we were Savannah dwelling tribes, where everybody was important. Everybody was important. Everybody
had a specific role.
And it is really, really amazing how those two things are so closely connected, that those echo our DNA and our evolution as a species. And now we're sitting here where we're able to sit around in our underwear and our bathrobes and engage the entire world on this fucking thing. Can't see my phone because of my background. On a screen that's 4.5 by 2 inches, we're able to engage the entire world, and we're not meant to do that. We're just not meant to do that as a species. I maybe in 1,000 years, but not now.
Because that would be a very short period of time. I think the joke about the phones I've seen is, go back, I don't know, 50 years. And people say, what kind of technology you have? You say, I have a device where I carry around the sum total knowledge of all mankind. I use it to argue with strangers about politics and look at pictures of cats that look like Santa Claus. I mean, that's
I
what it is. By the way,
like
that book is that
Santa Claus. Sorry,
that's by Sebastian Younger.
Sebastian. I said Stephen Younger, didn't I?
Yeah, I just found it on Amazon. I may see about getting that.
Please do. It's an amazing read that anybody in the mental health. I talk to people in the mental health industry all the time, obviously, because of my educational background and some of the stuff that I do in my peer mentorship roles and stuff like that. And I'm like, the fact that you haven't read this makes me suspect of you, especially if you're dealing with people who have experienced trauma. You need to read this book. It's Sebastian Younger is he's a superior writer. I think you'll really appreciate his style and the way. And like I said, he spent a lot of time and he's a liberal, but he spent a lot of time embedded and has written books about his experience being embedded in the military and stuff like that. Reported on that. He's an interesting guy. That book is fantastic. Yeah. And I think you're correct. Me being a man of faith, I think that these big organizations that have popped up that used to not exist, taking the place of God and church, have hurt us deeply psychologically and spiritually. And spiritual and psychological are the same thing, really. They might describe the same thing a little bit differently. The lack of civic organizations where people felt a part of a community, whether it was the Lions Club or the Eagles or Bowling League. Bowling Alone is another great book that actually addresses that. I mean, there's so many reasons. And now, I heard an interesting quote the other day on a podcast. It's that humility is not the lack of loving yourself. It's just the acceptance that you might not be the most important thing right now. And yeah. I like that. And, the social media thing, God, every day, even with the friends that I have on social media, it's all about loving myself. I love myself. Jesus fucking Christ. Ugh.
I don't think that's how most people love
there,
themselves. Most people love themselves. I mean, you don't need to tell people to do it.
Well, narcissism is built into our DNA. So
yeah,
loving yourself and loving myself are two different things. Loving yourself enough. I think loving yourself has to mean that I'm going to make tough decisions. I'm going to put myself in situations that are hard. That loving myself is actually about caring about other people, sometimes more than I care about my own needs. That's hard to do. I get it. I get that that's hard to do.
I do understand it from a standpoint of, hey, don't let yourself be treated like dirt.
Absolutely.
Don't be too hard on yourself when you make a mistake. I get it from that. But it can turn into, aggrandizement about how awesome you might be. Look, anybody who knows me on Facebook knows that I'm every once in a while I'll be like, look at me, I'm so great. But it's always done with tongue firmly implanted in cheek. It's always done as a kind of a gag. But there's some people who are out there who, you've seen me engage with them, and they really do think that they are all that.
I think you have a high degree of confidence in yourself. And I think you've been through a lot in your life and you've proven yourself to yourself. And there's nothing wrong with that. But I also know that you are highly self-deprecating and that you appreciate your faults and you make fun of them, as I do.
As I do. And I know you make fun of my faults.
Well, and as you do mine. I mean, you spent the first 10 minutes talking about my forehead. So,
and it is a nice one.
You could actually that like there could be a hole at Augusta. Like you could tee off here, go like there'd be a water hazard. Here's the water hazard, be a sand trap. Anyway, the psoriasis patch that I have there could be the sand trap. That's fucking actually really funny.
Well, mine usually centers around well, let's put it this way. One of the things that annoys my oldest is I'm constantly reminding her that she did not win the genetic lottery when it came to like her height. Right. Or anything like that.
Well, that's another thing too. In many ways, I did apparently win the genetic lottery, according to standards and stuff like that. It's like I should have died a million times, and I apparently, like I say, I can't be killed. I can only die. I make that choice.
If we ever get together again, we should test that.
Yeah, I don't think I can be killed. I really don't. But anyway, 6'3", white man, have all those genetics, big dude, easy for me to put muscles on, athletic, high IQ. Unlike all of that, no. I did with most of that. I had no control over. I had no control over that. But the thing is, you work with what there's things I really suck at, Russ.
You're the guy that when I would go out to bars, the women would always nudge me and say, "Hey, look at that over there," as kind of like as I was one of your as if I was one of their girlfriends and I was supposed to judge you for how awesome you were.
On the other hand, here's the point I'm trying to make. Those things are all true, and what you said is absolutely true. No, with all that, I'm the age I am. I have no children. I'm not married. I live by myself with a coon hound. I'm an emotional mess most of the time. I'm smart. I'm a good guy. I have loyal friends, but there are absolute, I look at your life. You didn't win the genetic lottery with size or height or anything like that, but you have an amazing family. You have a life you love. You have a beautiful house with some property. I'm kind of a vagabond in life by choice, but it what deals you. So there is no perfect solution to any of that. There is no perfect solution to any of that. It doesn't matter if you win the genetic lottery or not. You went a different direction, and I am proud to say that envy is not a sin that I have at all. When people do well and they have things, I might admire it. I might say that would be nice, but I'm never envious. But I look at your life and I go, God damn, that's amazing. That's amazing.
Oh, I appreciate that. I have a similar quality when it comes to my friends. It's almost the opposite of envy. I call it almost a braggadocio about my friends. I tend to, I've driven some people crazy. Like my wife, when we first got married, when I say, "Hey, my buddy so and so, he did this and he's done that," and she's like, "Okay, do you have anything yourself?" So it's because I like to brag on my friends' success because it's nice to see them succeed.
Well, hey everybody, this is Koop, the handsome and debonair one of the Two Grumpy Bastards podcast. Not to mention I'm the only one that's an actual bastard. Google that shit. Don't, actually. Hey, I'm here to do a shameless plug for our merchandise. You can find us at twogrumpybastardsmerchandise.com. We got a whole bunch of new merchandise in. I think you'll like some of the new choices. There's some pro-Second Amendment. There's some anti-Washington State Governor stuff on there. I think you'll really appreciate it. New stuff coming all the time. I have 2 great designs in the works, so please, to support this podcast, that's one of the easiest ways to do it. We're also on Etsy. Yeah, I know, Etsy. You can find our products on eBay as well. Storm King Mercantile is the name of the store there that fronts us. And there's many, many other ways to support this podcast, of course. We have a Patreon page, same thing, Two Grumpy Bastards. We certainly would appreciate you following us on Instagram. Most of you probably know we have a Facebook page, Two Grumpy Bastards Podcast. We have a lot of fun over there, a lot of frivolity, a lot of memes, and a lot of hard-hitting news. Believe it or not, a lot of great people in that group. Also, all of the social media outlets, including now on TikTok. You can find us there. And one of the things that I really wanted to tell you is if you have any feedback for Russ, especially because he kind of sucks, feel free to email us at twogrumpybastards@gmail.com. That's the easiest way to get a hold of us, or you can always leave us a comment or an IM on, or DM, I should say. See, I'm so savvy. I'm so savvy. On our Facebook page. So we really appreciate you listening or watching us over there on YouTube as well. And we hope you do both, because Russ is something to look at. I said something. I didn't say something really great to look at. Anyway, thanks for listening. This is your intrepid, amazing, and grateful host of the Two Grumpy Bastards podcast, Koop. Remember, keep your focus and stay wokeless.
It's just something that I've always liked.
I hear you. It's funny. I don't know why we're spending the entire podcast on this conversation, but
yeah, we got other stuff to talk about, man.
it's interesting to me, but I'll leave my piece off on this. When I was getting out for good out of the Army 10 years ago, I got so many offers from corporate America and some, and not even corporate America, nonprofit stuff like that, because I had this experience. I was good at what I did, had a very successful career in my own right. Wounded Warriors offered me a regional manager position with a waterfront view in Seattle on Alaska Way and a high six-figure salary.
Nice.
And then I dug into Wounded Warriors and I'm like, bull, yeah, I'm not a big fan. I had other offers, and there was nothing after all that time and everything I'd been through. There was nothing in my heart that could go there, and it's like, I could be wealthy. I could have all these houses. I could, I have that boat that I saw today on Mayfield Lake that went by that probably cost more than anything I've ever owned in my life.
They have bikini women on top dancing.
They did not have that, but hey, you know what? God bless them that they did something in life that provided them that. But you know what I really would like to do in my life? Here's my dream. I've never said this to you. I've never said it on the podcast. Here is my dream in life. And it doesn't have anything to do with girls or anything like that. I would like to do two things. I would like to have a nursery and an animal sanctuary. And I think I could combine those two things into a really cool thing. And that's what I'm working towards in my life. Having property where I can actually do that, because, I love critters. And I can't stand it when critters are hurting and all that kind of thing. And I've always been into my little garden downstairs would stun you. I mean, it's tiny, but it's beautiful. And I've always been into that. It's like, I could do those two things together. And that's that doesn't make you rich. That's not going to buy me that boat. It's not going to buy me that, but I don't care. Because that's beautiful to me. That's what beauty is. Yeah.
Speaking of critters, I'm probably going to end up with a new critter this weekend.
You mentioned something. What is it?
Oh, it's probably going to be a new dog. We have one already. Sherry has located another one and sent me the text of, "Hey, what would you think about us getting this?" And I bring up my objections. They are duly noted, and then they are overruled by my wife, who wants the dog. So, and of course,
what breed you looking at?
It's a Jack Russell.
Oh, okay. Oh, one of those pieces of shit. I mean, those great dogs.
It's another Jack. We have a Jack Russell now. That's
I know. I'm teasing.
Most spoiled dog I have ever had in my life. She, I'll come home. She's on the bed on my pillow. I'm like, hey Josie, get off. And she gets off the bed, and then I'll go into the office to do something, and she gets right back on the bed, right back on my pillow, because I'm sure she can smell the scent. She's trained us for when she needs to go out. Great dog, very smart, very, knows, able to communicate. But yes, she by far the most spoiled dog that I've ever had. I have a bit of a soft spot for that kind of stuff, and my wife definitely, plays into it. It's funny because this particular dog, when we go out of town, we'll leave the dog at a friend's house. Well, the dog has adopted the friend's dad and will sit on his lap. And if there are other dogs come around the dad, then our dog will growl at them like, this is mine.
Right.
So it's fun, but I'm going to end up with two of everything. We have two cats upstairs. We have two horses out in the back, and I have one dog, but now I'm going to end up with two dogs to go with my two daughters. I don't know what the deal is with the twos I got going on, but it's just happening.
No, that works, man. That's cool. My experience with Jack Russells, they're either the biggest punk bitches on the planet, or they're just completely awesome.
Yeah, Josie she's definitely. We'll see what this other dog is like, if she's anything like Josie, but
that's cool.
We'll definitely see.
I did want to explain my T-shirt to the folks on YouTube, since I think we're being chased enough to put this one on YouTube. This is one of the T-shirts that we offer on twogrumpybastardsmerchandise.com. And I didn't want you to think that I actually like tea, because it actually says, "Oop, how we doing? Come on."
There we go. A little bit. Oh.
And
I can see it now.
Shit. Hold on. Come on. Focus. I really hate this virtual shit. You think they'd have this goddamn I like tea in the harbor where it belongs.
Yeah.
It's one of
Like,
the and of course
we can
there's
figure
the,
that out from at least seeing the picture a little bit.
Yeah. So that's one of the t-shirts we offer at twogrumpybastardsmerchandise.com. I was told again last weekend that you need a marketer. I can't believe it. You don't market. And we will get into that. I've been looking into that. So don't worry.
Eventually, now, if anyone who says we need a marketer, that's great. Make an angel investment in Two Grumpy Bastards, and we will happily go get a marketer.
That's right. Or you can go to our Patreon page, Two Grumpy Bastards, and support us that way too. But we got some great products out there. I didn't mean to throw a commercial in here. So I know we've been on for a bit, but we should probably get to something other than this philosophy that we got completely.
We're too high-minded. I mean, I'm sure we've lost 3 of the 8 followers we have when we're talking a little bit about Greek philosophy and the unmooring of society through mental health.
Yeah, I think most people like to hear it. I mean, it's kissing and Lex Friedman. I have grown to hate him.
I don't know who that is.
The Lex Friedman podcast. He's the Russian guy that talks like this and wears a black suit with a black tie and says, "I love all you people." He has interesting guests on there, but I hate his podcast.
Well, the podcast that I've gotten into more and more recently is Trigonometry with Konstantin Kisin.
Yeah, I know you're a big Kisin fan. Yeah, I mentioned him. What's the I'll think about it for the next podcast. The guy that keeps popping up everywhere, like on Piers Morgan and Ruben and all that. He's a British guy and he's just brutal with the truth. What is his name? I can't think of it right now. But I'll send you a link later. Okay. But oh my God. And he just eviscerates everybody. I mean, and he's very calm about it. It's like, oh yeah, so nice of you to support a policy that would just chop the dicks and mutilate every child there is on planet Earth. Now, here's the problem with that, is that the tranny community, I mean, that's the way he talks, and the bad thing is, like, a guy like me, I talk the way I talk, and, people are like, you're a fucking dick. A guy like him, it's like, but he speaks so nice. He can say cunt, and it's not a big deal.
Well, you can say almost anything in an English accent and sound classy.
I know, it sucks. I hate that.
Just like you can say almost anything in an Australian accent and sound sexy.
You can. I mentioned this to a friend last weekend. Said, you ever notice that Australians and New Zealanders have a way of putting in syllables that actually don't exist? Like, so if you say the word no and you're an Australian New Zealander, there's like 6 syllables to it. It'd be like, hey, do you like blue cheese? No. No.
I haven't really seen that.
No. It's fucking nuts, man. It's like, stop it already. All right. Anyway, what else do you want to talk about before we get off here tonight? You want to talk about the Hawaii fires? You want to talk about, God, there's so much we could talk about.
There's so much we could talk about. We could talk about the Republican debate that ended up kind of being a non-event, except for I thought the word I'm looking for, the cutting down juvenilization of Vivek Ramaswamy, who I think was exposed for why he doesn't need to be on that stage running for president.
Oh, really? You actually thought that, huh?
I think that debate exposed him. I like Vivek, but he reminded me too much of that kid in class who has his hand raised and shouting, "Ooh, ooh, ooh, pick me!" And
the fact that he stole lines from
Obama.
From Obama, yeah, that kind of bugged me. I like him too, and when I see him on podcasts, he's just being him. I like him, but I wasn't impressed with him in that debate.
He's trying to be a politician in some of this stuff. He's trying to gain attention. I think that he's probably looking for he's probably looking either looking for a cabinet post if Trump gets elected, which I don't think is going to happen, or he's looking to get Trump's endorsement in the Ohio Senate race. He's a little bit too young. He keeps talking about stuff he will do, as opposed to folks like DeSantis who say, "Hey, here's what I have done." But as we both know, Republican primary voters right now are looking for red meat and folks who will get in the faces of the media and the woke. They're not looking for good policy. If they did, there's 3 or 4 folks up there who would be far better than anybody else that we've picked. Vivek is just he's an amateur, and it showed at that debate. He's been coming up, but he had been coming up prior to the debate. I think he has kind of fallen back to earth a little bit. I think the debate kind of exposed him. He needs to stop trying to rap during his campaign events. It doesn't come
I
off
would agree
very
with
well.
that. I would agree with the rapping thing.
Now it's the debate's almost meaningless unless something happens to Trump, because whether I like it or not, Trump is running far and away ahead of the field, which is just shows the Republicans are trying to vote with their balls instead of their brains. And when Trump gets beaten this time, I have a feeling he's going to try and run in 2028 also. And are the Republicans going to be stupid then too?
Is he going to be alive, dude? He's going to be like 90 by then.
No, he'll be 82. He'll be the age in 2000. Will be the age that Biden is now.
No, he's only a year behind Biden, man.
Trump's Biden's older is like 3 years older than he is.
Yeah, so Trump's 81 years old, Biden's 82.
No, Trump is 78.
Are you sure?
Yeah, I'm almost positive.
Oh, you know what? I will concede that. I don't know. I'm thinking Mitch McConnell. I'm thinking Mitch McConnell.
Yeah, okay. Trump is 77 years old. McConnell is the one that's zoning out of press conferences and making a hell of a case for why there should be an age limit to he and Biden are making great cases for why there should be an age limit to people being in public office.
I actually don't think there should be an age limit. What I think there should be is a voter stupidity motherfucking limit. Seriously, there should be a regulator. I'll come out and say it again here soon when the elections come up. Get out the vote. No, stay the fuck home. Because 90% of the people that vote are fucking idiots, and you don't look at the issues, and you either like promises and sound bites. That's how Gavin Newsom gets elected. Oh, he's got nice hair. Well, you know what? I do too, Gavin Newsom. Fuck you. But
well, you also got to remember that in addition to that, the Democrats know most people are stupid. Most voters are uninformed, and taking advantage of that by expanding mail-in voting. So you don't even have to expend effort to go down to the polling place. They're going to mail you your ballot. You just got to fill it up. Some harvester is going to come by, grab it from you, put it in the mail for you. You ain't got to do dick.
I think absentee ballots, and I grew up in a community of like 200 people. So absentee ballots hit us pretty early. They used to have a polling place at the post office when I was a kid, or maybe the grade school. I can't remember. And then the nearest town had about 1,500 people. Absentee ballots didn't exist except for the military. I think I'm correct about that until, gosh, Russ, I'm thinking it was sometime in the 80s or something like that where it became kind of a thing.
I think there should only be 3 broad categories of people that are allowed absentee balloting without really having to make a case to prove it. That's military members, missionaries, and truck drivers. If you're, or pilots, somebody that's in a travel industry where they're likely to not be there because they are hauling our stuff across the country, or they're moving people or whatever. But those are the only 3 categories that I think we say, those should. But for everybody else, it ought to be incumbent on the voter to show some effort to get out there and vote. Actually have to go to a polling place.
Absolutely.
It's insane that we're just, hey, and a random person go, here's a ballot, here's the people you should vote for. And like, oh, well, sounds good. Because most people, I actually, all the way down the ballot, I've researched every candidate. I know all their positions. I've talked to some of the candidates outside the polling places, then when they're away from the polling places and they're outside the limit. I've talked to them like, okay, I've researched you and I've researched this guy. Tell me why I should vote for you. And I've told a couple of them, you know what, that's not persuasive. I'm going to go somewhere else. But you got to actually engage. But we do it by default because like everybody's entitled to vote. Yeah, but the implied in that is put forth some effort and actually learn what's going on.
I would just draw issue with the word that you used, entitled. I would say has the right to. I would replace that, because I think if you're a lazy piece of shit, and okay, so here's we go down a rabbit hole. I know we've been on for a while, but here's one of the things, all this bullshit lies about, oh, they're trying to institute racist voter laws. because they want people to have an ID, and people of color have a hard time.
That's the most racist thing.
What is the most racist thing you could say about a group of people that they're too stupid to figure out how to go to the DMV or wherever they need to go to get an ID?
And it's usually a bunch of woke white folks that are saying that.
Racist is that? And listen, you have to have an ID to do every other thing on the fucking planet if you're an American citizen. You even to go to, okay, I just learned this recently. This is scary. To go to a food bank in California, Southern California. I don't know about the rest of California. Talking about LA County. You not only have to have a valid ID that shows your address that's within the province of that food bank, you have to be referred by a government agency.
But
okay,
it's harder to get food. It's harder to get food than it is to vote.
Yes, and it should be for people of need to go to a food bank. It should be really goddamn simple to get some food. I don't have a problem in the world because I really don't think a lot of people go to food banks and turn around and try to sell cabbages and a bag of chips on the black market. No. I think most people that go to food banks, probably can use it. Okay. So it should be relatively simple to go to a food bank. The food bank that I volunteer with locally requires you to have a local address. Okay. That's it. And they want you once a year to make sure that you're still in the local area because there's only so much to go around and they serve that local area. I understand that.
Makes sense.
That makes sense. You don't want, oh, hey, everybody from, la, and it's a very nice food bank and people get wonderful food there. But it's harder to get food in LA County than it is to vote because famously Dave Rubin, a podcaster that I listen to a lot, talked about the last time before he moved from LA to Florida. Last time he voted, he walked in and took out his ID and the guy just went like that. And he goes, no, just sign. Actually told him to put his ID back in his wallet.
That's not right for fraud at all.
No, not at all. Yes, it should be relatively hard to vote. I am not saying that, people of indigent and lower intellect and stuff like that don't have the right to vote. But, in my perfect world, there would be a meritocracy about how much your vote counted depending on what you did.
For me, it's just a matter of you got to put forth effort and you got to prove that you are who you say you are.
That's all.
That's all the minimum to do.
No, but the left Democrats are saying, oh, it's racist to, oh my God, are you fucking kidding me? Nobody's trying to keep anybody from voting. What you're trying to do is allow illegals that you're allowing into the country at 100,000 a fucking month. And, pander to there are no bigger racists than people who say that people of color can't get IDs as easily as white. My God, how racist are you?
Yep. That's exceptionally racist.
Yes. And I can't believe, I hope people of color get more offended by this day by day about being treated like they're fucking children, like they're not able to live like an adult or make adult decisions, because that's how they're getting treated by the left. Really.
Yep.
And I'm sorry, you're a conservative, I'm a libertarian. There isn't a very huge delta between those two things, but neither of those two philosophies treat people like that. It's all about it's all about the greatness of the individual. And that whole bullshit in the 80s, lifting yourself up by your own bootstraps. That's not really what conservatism or libertarianism is about. It's about, yes, being an individual, but counting on the people around you, your family, your community, the gang that you have to help lift you up in those times where you need help. But yes, making those decisions, those responsible decisions for yourself and your family.
I think Dennis Miller put it very, very well when he said, I want to help the helpless, but I don't give two shits about the clueless.
I like that. I don't remember him saying that, but he said a lot of really intellectual things. I haven't heard a lot about Dennis Miller lately. I wonder if he's doing all right.
He's trying to get another Monday Night Football game.
That went only slightly better than Rush Limbaugh's gig on Monday Night Football.
Actually, I think Miller lasted longer than Limbaugh, and Limbaugh was on the Sunday NFL Countdown. He lasted,
Oh, that's right.
5
That's
weeks.
right. I'm crossing swords here, but yeah, that's right.
Crossing streams. Don't cross the streams.
That's right. Don't do it. Yeah, when he made that comment about Randall Cunningham.
No, it was about Donovan McNabb.
I thought it was.
Yeah, and look, the comment wasn't even about Donovan McNabb. It was about the media.
You fact-checked me twice.
To McNabb.
You have fact-checked me twice in this podcast. Congratulations, sir, and I thank you for it.
But yeah,
Unlike a narcissist that would be angry, I thank you for it.
Well, you're welcome. Thank you. Yeah, I mean, I had a feeling that Limbaugh wasn't going to last very long. There, he would have gotten the job today.
It was a weird
we're
try.
Too polarized. We're too tribal.
Yeah, it was a weird try.
And Miller, they know Miller's politics. There's no way he'd get that gig today.
The problem with Miller on that show is he's so fucking brilliant that he makes such subtle references that you have to dig through.
When he's talking about how the offensive line looks like the battle formation looks like the formation of the Battle of Thermopylae. I mean, it goes over most football fans' heads.
Yes, it does. Or how the quarterback is almost as good as Lillian Gish singing the national anthem.
Most sort of like, huh? What?
I'm like, I love you, Dennis, but yeah, you don't belong here.
Yeah, that's not. It's not a football game targeted at nerds that have those kinds of things.
So your outcome to bring everything back in loop before we get off, because how long we've been on? Yeah, we've been on a while, almost an hour and a half.
Well, the funny thing is that we've actually only been on the podcast for almost an hour because we spent the first half an hour fucking off.
Oh, you know what? You're right. So I'll relax. I was just trying to. How are you doing on time on your end there?
I'm fine, but I'm gonna need to get off here soon. I got kids I got to make sure get to bed and that kind of stuff.
Gotcha. Yeah, you just give me the nod when you need to get off. So to bring it back around, that Republican debate. So what we talked about Vivek, whom I like. And I don't hate him by any stretch of the imagination. I like him better than any of those circa 1994 Republicans that were up on that stage, like Nikki Haley. And although she did well,
I think Haley helped her cause a little bit.
Yeah, she did well. And she's not a dummy. I've never thought she was anything but very bright and very good at what she did in the past. So what was your? I don't think Ron DeSantis hurt himself, but I don't think he made a case either.
Well, actually, DeSantis has picked up a little bit in the polls, but what surprised me the most about the debate was I expected all fire to be going at DeSantis, and he took almost nothing. To be fair, Ramaswamy took almost all the fire. I mean, Chris Christie went after him several times. Ramaswamy did get one good line in about Christie hugging Obama in 2012. That was the only, one of his few good lines. I think Haley helped herself. I think Tim Scott was a non-entity. I like Mike Pence, but Mike Pence has no shot.
He has no shot. I thought he was the most aggressive, but I still think that he just doesn't have a shot.
Yeah, I think Asa Hutchinson exceeded expectations only because he decided not to trans a kid in the middle of the stage during the debate. And then, now, were you not feeling the Bergamentum, Doug Burgum, the governor of North Dakota? I mean, he was the charismatic, I expect him at 35-40% before the next debate. I mean, he just, wow, what a performance.
By
the way, all those out there in podcast land, please understand the sarcasm coming out of my mouth for this.
How did he even get up on that stage? And I have nothing against the Dakotas, because the folks that I thought were my blood relatives, but I still consider family, are South Dakota folks, like Rapid City. South Dakota is a lovely, lovely, lovely state, and they have by far and away the hottest governor in history.
That's true.
Oh my
God!
God!
Burgum's from North Dakota,
right? And South Dakotans and North Dakotans are completely different people. Kristi Noem. Oh my God! Wow, I'm sorry, I just had to fawn on her for a second. That
Well, imagine putting Christian Noam together with, say, a 2008 version of Sarah Palin.
Okay.
Calm down.
Stop it. So South Dakotans and North Dakotans are totally different breeds of folks. I remember training a National Guard unit back in the day that was getting deployed to go over to Iraq. And yeah, they're a bunch of North Dakotans. And of course they spoke just like you thought they were. And I remember the one kid, he wasn't quite tuning into the training. I think he was an E4. And I was like, why are you not getting this? Why are you not up to it? He goes, sir, in North Dakota, all we do is drink and fuck. We don't think about this stuff.
Oh, that's good for national defense.
There's too much snow. That's all we do is drink and fuck. I'm like, all righty. I actually kind of love you guys now after you saying that. But to take the governor of that state and think he's got a fucking even puncher's chance at
I have no idea how he made the stage. Now it's funny because the mayor of Miami, somebody Suarez, said that if you didn't make the debate stage, you should drop out. And he didn't make the debate stage. So I guess he just dropped out.
So he dropped out.
Look, the debates are near meaningless unless you get Trump up on stage. Trump's not going to get in debates because he's the prohibitive favorite, but he also doesn't realize that by doing this, Joe Biden is not going to debate him next year. Joe Biden's going to say, I'm not going to debate anybody who's under criminal indictment. And when Trump says, well, he's chicken, he's going to come back and say, you didn't join the Republican debates. Are you chicken? It's going to be completely meaningless.
Mm-hmm. No, I 100% agree with you.
At the very least, owes the voters, a case for why we should choose him. But he knows that. I think if he gets up there with like Ron DeSantis or Haley, they might actually take him down a peg or two, depending on what the emotion of the electorate is. But somebody's going to have to eventually make the case that, hey, Trump may have had some good policies. He's not electable this time, and we need to move on. Somebody's going to actually have to punch him in the mouth. Somebody besides Chris Christie. Because Christie's not going anywhere in the primaries. His moment was 2012. He's 10, 12 years too late.
Yeah, he is.
He should have run in 2012 against Obama. That was his moment. I think that's why Ron DeSantis is wanting to get in now, because this was thought of as his moment. And as long as we can get away from Trump in 2028, which God only knows if that's going to happen, you're looking at Glenn Youngkin probably getting in 2028, Winston Sears, the lieutenant governor of Virginia, who's probably going to be the governor of Virginia by that point, getting in. You may be looking at the lieutenant governor of Florida getting in. There's going to be a whole new crop of folks. So can DeSantis maintain relevancy until 2028 when we finally get to the end of probably President Kamala Harris's term? Because I don't know if Joe Biden is going to make it that far given his health situation. I hope he does, if for no other reason than to spare us Kamala Harris presidency for even a minute. But that's got me concerned. I think I've told you that I think the best case scenario for Republicans this time, given that I think Joe Biden is going to beat Donald Trump, I don't even think that's really going to be a question, because Democrats are going to crawl naked over broken glass to vote against Donald Trump.
And Donald Trump.
Best case.
Go ahead.
The best case scenario is that Republicans win 3 out of the 4 competitive Senate seats right now, and take back the Senate so they can try and stymie Biden and then hold on to the House in some way. But if Democrats sweep through the House and the Senate, well, then they're going to expand the Supreme Court by 4 justices so they can get back to a 7-6 majority. They're going to admit D.C. and Puerto Rico as states to try to maintain permanent power in the Senate. It's going to get, and they're going to eliminate the filibuster. It's going to be nasty.
And people listening to this podcast that don't think that's a possibility need to wake up to that possibility. Idiots. It really is.
Let me say this. Let me say this directly. You folks who don't think that's a possibility, you are a moron. Please don't breed, because you are going to dumb down the human race.
Here's the thing. And I don't want to come across as the anti-Donald Trump channel or anything like that. You and I both have admiration for some of his policies and some of the things he accomplished as president. but he does not fucking talk about a single policy anymore. The only time he talks or he's interviewed, it's poor me, poor me, poor me. Look at me.
Yeah.
They screwed me. They're screwing me. You know what? At some point, we get it. We get it, Trump. Okay. I do support you as far as your legal cases and all of that. I do. But it doesn't mean that you should be president. It doesn't mean that. The fact that people in this country are showing their pain and anger and all of that towards what's happening to him by stalwartly wanting to push him into another election is insane. It's fucking insane because he has zero chance of winning the general election. Think about that. You want to put your country back into the we are no longer a dominating world power, I don't think right now, philosophically, ideologically, and we will soon not be that way economically, and then the military follows behind that. A lot of things are going on in the world. The dollar is devalued. They're trying to, China, Russia, and a bunch of other fuckers are trying to get rid of the dollar as the world currency. A lot of shit's happening. If you don't get somebody strong in there, and it's not going to be him. Look, if I thought it was going to be him, I would be 100% behind this. But he's going to be taking his entire, there is no campaign. It's just Donald Trump bitching about what's happening to him legally. And he has every right to do that. So step aside and go fight your fucking legal battles and let somebody who has a chance of winning the general election fucking win the primary election. Am I wrong in that, Russ?
No, and there's something else. When a lot of folks claim that the 2020 election was stolen from Donald Trump, let's grant that simply for the sake of argument. I think Ben Shapiro put it right. Would somebody please ask Donald Trump what your plan is to unsteal it in 2024? In 2020, if it supposedly got stolen, when you controlled all the levers of power, but now you have none of the levers of power, you have no official capacity to do anything, and somehow you're going to overcome that again. Look, I don't think the election was stolen in 2020, but I'm just making the case that even if it was, I don't know that, he has not articulated a plan to unsteal it, to stop the steal. So what state that he lost last time does he think he's going to win this time? There's not a single state that he lost last time that I think is going to vote for him this time.
Big old fucking donut. Big old fucking donut there.
Yeah, and like I said, Trump drives Democrat turnout, and he drives independent turnout against him because a lot of suburban women don't like him. I get it. You can shake your fist in the air. You can stomp your feet. You can be mad about that. But we don't live in a Roman republic about to turn empire where Trump's going to cross the Rubicon and suddenly, be like the die is cast. That's not going to happen. He's not going to be back in power. And when he was in power, do people forget shit like, he made Fauci the face of our COVID response? That he signed a criminal justice reform thing that's letting people out of prison? I mean, he did some good things with, like, the Supreme Court justices were the biggest thing. The peace deals between Israel and the UAE.
Fantastic. That was fantastic.
Places like that. That's all great.
Let's give him credit. Let's give him credit for those good things that he did. He didn't build that wall that he talked about.
No, it didn't even get close.
Nope. And he certainly didn't make Mexico pay for it.
Yeah, and look, for folks need to understand the stakes in this election. Koop, you made a great case about our standing in the world, but let's look domestically. There is an entire party that is trying to cut the dicks off of small children. You got people that are pushing, trying to take away gas stoves. They're pushing electrical vehicles being the only cars on the road by 2035, despite the fact that they're going to be nowhere near ready. They are now targeting ceiling fans. This is shit that's going to affect your life and your family's life. Okay? I get the impulse of Trump being the giant middle finger to the media and the wokesters
I do
out
too.
there. I understand it on an emotional level, but damn it, stop trying to vote with your balls and vote with your brain. Trump's only hope is people are so disgusted with Biden they don't show up. But because Trump is going to be on the ballot, they'll show up. All right, if it's Trump, it's Biden against almost anybody else. Even even our liberal friend from Seattle, who we've had on the podcast before, has said she possibly would consider Nikki Haley, okay, because she doesn't like Biden. But if it's Trump, she'll vote for Biden. I guarantee it.
Yeah, it's hard for me to articulate how deeply I feel about this, Russ, because I don't understand. As much as I hate that leftist cult of having to have a god that is beyond you, which is either climate change, which is mostly climate change in my opinion, or
big time.
the non-existent racism. Is it Thomas Sowell who famously said that racism isn't dead, but the left keeps it on life support?
Yeah, well, I've heard similar that the demand for racism outstrips its supply.
I didn't know if those were cows or somebody honking. I heard.
I was about to say these 5 seconds of silence brought to you by Marcel Marceau.
But I can't stress enough to people that really care about this country. What I love, yeah, those are cows pissed off. They want something to eat, I guess. But anyway, I live on a cattle ranch, so
Remember the steaks.
That's what those are. They're red Angus, delicious. Here's the problem, folks. Be as big a fan of Trump as you want. Be as big a fan as what he did as president. I think Russ and I just laid down. Look, I loved a lot of his policies. Oil independence happened underneath Trump. It did. Our oil surplus was through the roof underneath Trump. Gas prices. Okay. I just filled up my stupid car again today, and it was $75. Under Trump, it was 30-ish.
Yeah.
To fill it up. I get it. I love that too. If you love living that way, then fucking find somebody else to vote for. If you're not in love with DeSantis like Russ and I are, okay. I think Vivek would do a great job, even though he's young and dumb and inexperienced, but I like a lot of his philosophy. Nikki Haley reminds me of the goddamn Republicans from 20 years ago, but she would be a huge upgrade. Okay, but figure this fucking shit out. Quit going, this should be our president because of what they did to him. What they are doing to him should qualify as one of, I can't even begin to tell you, being a student of history and how this happens in banana republics and how they go after people. And we can't even get into this tonight, but they're going after Elon Musk now.
Yeah.
The deep state is. God forbid somebody changes technology and society and history forever, because he's a bit of a libertarian at heart, and libertarian means you're also kind of a liberal. But anyway, stop it with the immature emotional shit that you're going to vote for him for president, because he's not going to win, and you're going to get another Democrat, and then you could totally This beautiful republic that you and I fought for, Russ, me 27 years, you all those years, could come to an end in the next 4 years in the way that we've loved it and known it. And that really makes me angry. So please fucking take a good look at your soul and grow up. I'm sorry. I have to get that off my chest.
The Trump cultists always point to 2016 as, well, nobody thought he could win in 2016. In 2016, he was taking on maybe the only person in America less popular than he was. He drew an inside straight to win Michigan, Pennsylvania, and Wisconsin. And folks don't understand that. Like, look at Wisconsin, for example. He got less raw votes in Wisconsin in 2016 than Mitt Romney got losing the state in 2012.
Yep.
The reason he won the state was Democrats didn't come out to vote. Most of them because they figured Hillary's going to win anyway. I don't need to come out because this way I can say that, hey, I can still gripe about it. I didn't vote for her, but secretly I'm glad Trump's not president. When that shit came up to bite them in the ass in 2016, they're not going to make that mistake again. All right. That's how they turned out last time. And again, even if you really believe that they stole those states, well, great, but shaking your fist in the air isn't going to get them to unsteal it. So, you know what? If you really think somebody stole it, put somebody else in there and let's see, okay? Because Trump ain't going to unsteal it. Trump's going to be worried about his legal cases. I think the case in Georgia is probably the most perilous. I don't think it's the most legally sound. I really think there's only one case that's legally sound and it's politically unsound, and that's the classified documents case in Florida. It's a very legally sound case, but it's not politically sound when you look at what happened to Hillary. But it doesn't matter because Fani Willis is going after him with alacrity. And even if he somehow eventually wins on appeal, that's going to take up his entire time. He's going to be fighting to stay out of prison. He's not going to be president again, folks. I'm sorry. Be mad at that. Call me all kinds of names. I don't give a shit. But he's not going to be president. What you're going to do is you're going to saddle us with 4 more years of Biden. And since Biden is so old and decrepit, and he wants to watch Matlock every night, as opposed to take a nap on the couch at 3 p.m. or during the middle of a Maui press conference about fires, I mean, you're going to subject us to that or Kamala Harris, which would be even worse. You can't imagine it gets worse. Put Kamala Harris in charge, and you'll see how much worse it gets really fast. And if you're going to subject us to that, and it's going to be really bad. The only plus to Kamala Harris becoming president is it probably stops Gavin Newsom from running in 2028. Because if you've noticed, Gavin Newsom is doing all kinds of little things to position himself in case Biden stumbles between now and next November. He's running almost a shadow campaign. Gavin Newsom would be an absolute disaster for the country, a worse disaster than Joe Biden. And Joe Biden is the worst president of my lifetime. I didn't think anybody could surpass Jimmy Carter. And he's made Carter look competent, which is really hard to do. I know I'm sounding like a ranting madman on this, but this really is that important because of the level of change they are trying to undertake, as opposed to, we've always seen the status quo before. I mean, Obama was in office. We got Obamacare, but then suddenly we got a Republican Congress that was stopping this kind of stuff. Joe Biden has already tried to forgive student loans under power he doesn't have, force everyone to take an experimental vaccine that, through the OSHA mandate, that power he didn't have. He suspended, he kept in place the eviction moratorium forever. The transgender thing is out of control. Biden and his DOJ are targeting states like Virginia. He wanted to be a mediator in Fairfax County. That basically means he wanted to come to Fairfax County and tell the Virginia government that was opposed to Fairfax County's policies, hey, this is what we're going to shove down on you. You want to look at the defunding the police that's happened under the Soros prosecutors? That's what's happened under Joe Biden. So I would take almost anybody, but that almost anybody person has to actually win. If they don't win, the only ones that are gonna make bank off of Joe Biden being in the Oval Office are people like us who get to bitch about it, and because that's all we're gonna be able to do is bitch about it. It's gonna be the podcasters like Shapiro, Matt Walsh, Dave Rubin, who are gonna make a lot of bank when people go to them and say, "I need to listen to people bitching about Joe Biden." I get that, but I would rather, defend whatever Republican is in the White House. And again, I'm sorry, folks, Democrats, Republicans, those are the only 2 parties that are going to win. You can bitch about that, or you can try and take over one of the parties. Those are the only ones that are going to win, whether you like it or not. But we need to get Joe Biden out. And here's the scariest part, in my opinion. Out of the current crop of Democrats, and this is going to sound weird because we just spent 5 minutes bitching about Joe Biden. Out of the current crop of Democrats, Biden is the least awful. When you look at Kamala, Buttigieg, Sanders, Newsom, I mean, any one of them gets in there.
Oh,
and
the only one I'd throw in there is RFK Jr. At least has a brain in his head.
Yeah, and they're going after him, a lot. I think RFK Jr. is a little crazy, but every once in a while he'll say something somewhat interesting and he'll make a good point.
But I do too, but I think he's a smart guy in a lot of ways too. And
yeah, but the establishment there is going to stomp on him the way they stomped on Bernie in 2016.
Yeah. Well, they're already doing it. I mean, he can't get an interview on CNN, MSNBC. He has to go to Joe Rogan and Dave Rubin and Adam Carolla and all these conservative podcast. He was on with what's his name? The comedian that we used to hate, but is actually kind of starting to see the light. He's got
Bill Maher.
Bill Maher. He was on with Bill Maher, which was a fantastic interview. And I don't think Bill Maher's necessarily seeing the light. Let me take that back, but he's been consistent.
Bill Maher's seeing some light, but it's not enough to move his voting position.
No, it's not, which is nutty, but I actually enjoy his smarmy intellectual bullshit that he's got. I actually enjoy listening, and he makes me.
The problem with Bill Maher, though,
he starts talking about racism and global warming. My ears just kind of pop. But
I don't know if you saw his interview with
him.
Mellencamp. Did you see the interview with John Mellencamp?
Oh, let's end with this. I actually lit social media up the other night over his interview with John Mellencamp because let me say this, and I'll absolutely listen to your analysis. I adored John Mellencamp back in the day. Adored him. Every album, went to 3 of his concerts, which I really enjoyed. I think he's an amazingly talented musician. But he is a socialist cunt fuck of a human being, and he has been for a long time. He started with that Farm Aid stuff. Not a bad thing to be a fan of and all that kind of thing. I get it. But oh my God, what he said, and I'll leave it up. I'll leave it up to you to what John Mellencamp said. And even Bill Maher tried to correct him gently.
Yeah.
And Bill Maher's a fan, so he wasn't going to be like, "You're fucking stupid, John Mellencamp," which I would have done if he was on our podcast. I'm like,
he came
"Are
close.
you out of your goddamn mind?" So go ahead.
He came close. For those who don't know, first of all, Mellencamp is a moron. He misquotes Jesus when he talks about turning the other cheek. He doesn't understand what the phrase means.
Right.
He's an enormous social justice guy. He tried to claim on Mars podcast that only 1% to 2% of Black Americans are better off today than they were under slavery. Bill Maher called him. I said, okay, but maybe it's 5 or 10%. I don't know the numbers, and I'm like, dude, no one is putting chains around their necks and making them, forcibly breeding them with other people and then taking their kids away. I mean, are you fucking insane? Pardon the word use of the F-bomb here. But
did Maher say that? Because I didn't hear that in the interview.
Maher didn't say that. Mellencamp said it. Mellencamp was the one saying that they were worse off.
No. Okay.
Maher tried to call him out. I'm the one saying that.
Okay.
Today no one's putting chains around their necks or taking their kids away. Mellencamp is a typical do-gooder, virtue signaling, communist who reads a lot of stuff, sees the headlines, and thinks he knows more about stuff than anybody else. And so even Maher called him out. But one last point I want to make before we end is, I like that Bill Maher has started to see some of the light, but I don't think Bill Maher understands the role he has played in us getting to this point, because we didn't get here, overnight. The way he started this stuff around 99, 2000, and the bullshit he started introducing, and the hatred of Bush being Hitler and all this other stuff, he is a milestone along that road to the polarization, tribalization we are now, and he needs to understand that, but he never will.
Well, he's stoned all the time, so he's not gonna even listen to that. I would love it if he'd get a guest on his. And to be fair, as they say in Letterkenny, and have you ever watched an episode of Letterkenny?
No.
You kill me. You fucking kill me. Okay.
Let me put this in perspective. With my kids, sometimes we'll watch TV during dinner. We just started Highway to Heaven.
You cannot watch Letterkenny in front of your kids. Oh, that's
but again, having kids does tend to restrict what I'm able to watch on TV.
Well, when you're your shitty corporate job and bored, you should pull it up on your computer. But no, Letterkenny's the best. But anyway, to be fair, I do appreciate. So he says he's never changed. That's Bill Maher's kind of tagline. He's like, I haven't changed. Liberals have changed. They've gone this way to left. He kind of has. I mean, we all do. I hope we all do. I hope we all evolve. The thing about him is that he never would have shown this much respect to the conservatives and the libertarians and stuff as he is now, and seeing how much he appreciates. I mean, he had my guy, the only human that I semi worship, Jordan Peterson, on, and he was fawning over the guy. I mean, he was fawning over the guy. And Jordan Peterson could be considered a classical liberal only if you consider those libertarians. I don't know that anything Bill Maher had said 20 years ago would adjust to anything that Jordan Peterson says today. But he was fawning over the guy. I don't know if you saw that interview or not.
I did not see that interview. I need to look that one up.
Fawning over him. I mean, it's like the way you dress, the way you talk. Oh God, I'm so glad you're back. Oh God. Oh, hey, you want to smoke some pot? You know, I mean, he was just fucking fawning over him. And that was not the Bill Maher of 20, 30 years ago. Not at all. Not at all. So Bill Maher may not recognize the fact that he's grown up a little bit, but the little boy's grown up a little bit. And I appreciate that. I appreciate that. I hope he continues to grow because he's an important voice. People have been listening to him for a long time. And he's an intellect. He is an intellect. He may not be smart, but he's an intellect. Anyway, I'll leave it at that. You're looking something up. You're fact.
I was trying to find that interview. I'll have to look for it later.
Which one?
The Jordan Peterson, Bill Maher one.
Yeah, it's fantastic. And I mean, and you know, Jordan Peterson is always trying to be polite in that weird, like, you know, I love Jordan Peterson because he's got that weird goose voice. He sounds like what I think, like if a goose became human, it would sound like Jordan Peterson.
Yep.
Yeah. Full. No, make your damn bed. And he's got that Eastern Canadian accent too, which is amazing.
As if you would be able to bring about the damn utopia.
Right? Well, you're the one mutilating children. You know, I love that guy. But I literally, when I hear him talk, I picture a Canada goose flying over my house. I do. Because I think that would be him. I think I'd be, hey, Koop, how you doing down there? Anyway, we should probably end this bullshit.
Probably wrap up. Yep, I have kids to make sure they're in bed.
Yeah, you better make sure they're in bed. Damn you! Oh wait, you're an oppressive father, aren't you? You're oppressive.
I know. I'm a big meanie.
I heard on a podcast today that kids should be choosing their genders as early as the age of 8 or 9 years old, to making major. So why would they not be able to choose their bedtime?
Well, anyone who tells me that my children need to choose their own gender, they have just chosen their own gender because I'll cut their nuts off. People try to tell me that. I will come after my family. Let's find out what happens.
Yep. The famous fuck around and find out. To leave off with this, just before we get off, I guess my worry, Russ, is that we're going to get to a point where it's going to get fuck around and find out. And it's going to get ugly. It's going to get
I think that you heard me. I think that's inevitable. I wish it wasn't. You and I have both seen what happens when societies go to that. But I really think that that's inevitable at this point. The question is whether it's going to be a large explosion or it's going to be a slow burn. But it's inevitable.
There's too many good people out there pissed off, and you know, another administration like we've had trying to push things further into chaos. There's going to be people being pissed off.
It's going to get there in your states first, because when the state comes in and tries to remove children from families, eventually some of those families are going to physically fight back.
Yeah, I'm worried about it. I am. I think about it every day. I hope it doesn't happen. I hope we get somebody in there that's able to push us back to adulthood and responsibility and push back.
They're wishing, you know, I'd kind of like to have a 10-inch dick in a career as a porn star. Sometimes things don't work out.
Well, I'm not a porn star. Other than that, I'm. All right, brother. We're going to end it there. So, hey,
I'll go to bed with that image, by the way.
That's right. Thanks for tuning in to the Two Grumpy Bastards. Thanks for the talk. We always hope it's not a waste of your time, but we know it is not, because This is like one of the best podcasts out there. It really is. It's too bad more people don't know that.
This is like the verbal. This is like the verbal form of foie gras.
Exactly what I would have said.
I just took those words right out of your mind.
Absolutely. All right, brother. Hey, good to see you. Have a good night. Take care of your family. And to our listeners out there, we love you. We do. Well, I do. Russ doesn't have a lot of love for anything.
Tolerates you.
That's right. No, we guys, thank you for listening. And from the two grumpy bastards, remember, keep your focus. And Russ,
Stay wokeless.